Since ancient times, humans have been collective living beings, and this trait is easy to understand. Just imagine our ancestors in that harsh environment, facing man-eating predators, ensuring food security, and defending against external threats. They had to gather the strength of the community to increase their own and their family's chances of survival. In that era, being alone was almost equivalent to a death sentence. Later, with the development of civilization, humans entered modern society. While modern individuals may not worry about encountering lions when they go out, the collective living nature of humans has essentially persisted. The family, composed of parents and children, remains the core of society, maintaining this basic collective living structure worldwide. However, in recent decades, a significant change has occurred. The collective living lifestyle that humans have had for hundreds of thousands of years has undergone a mutation in this short span of time, with a sharp increase in individuals living alone. Today, the number and percentage of people living alone are at the highest levels in human history. We may not perceive it as we live in this era, but from the perspective of human history, this change is an unprecedented and significant turning point. For the first time in human history, a large number of people, regardless of age or location, have chosen to settle down as individuals. And living alone is no longer just a transitional phase, but one of the most stable family types. Although the prevalence of living alone varies across countries, the overall trend is apparent worldwide. Historian Keith Snell studied data from the early modern period to today and found that before the 20th century, the proportion of people living alone remained stable at 10% or less. Living alone was always a rare exception in society. However, after 1960, the percentage of people living alone began to rise rapidly. In 2019, solo dwellers constituted a significant proportion of households in many countries, such as 28% in the United States and 28.5% in the European Union. According to 2020 data, single-person households accounted for 33.9% in Japan. Some European countries had even more surprising figures, with 40 to 45% of national households in Sweden, Lithuania, Denmark, Finland, etc., being single-person households. Various factors contribute to this global trend, including the foundation brought by wealth and social security, the rise of women's status, delayed marriage and a high divorce rate, and the general increase in human lifespan. But what I really want to discuss is, does living alone truly make people lonely? The phrase living alone often evokes associations with a lonely life. As mentioned earlier, since humans are collective living animals, feelings of loneliness may be an inherent protective mechanism to alert us not to stray from the community and jeopardize our survival. Prolonged loneliness can have psychological and physiological effects, making loneliness an issue that needs attention. A quick Google search for the loneliness epidemic suggests that this concern is global. The UK even established the position of the Minister for Loneliness to coordinate efforts across government departments to address this social problem. If living alone indeed leads to loneliness, then the trend of living alone is undoubtedly worth serious attention. The question is, does living alone really cause loneliness? When thinking about individuals living alone, it's easy to conjure an image of someone with no expression, eating takeout alone at home, watching TV alone, reading a book for a while, checking the clock, turning off the lights, and going to sleep alone. In appearance, it's simply the life of a lonely individual. However, unless the person themselves admits to being lonely, in reality, we cannot determine whether someone is truly leading a lonely life solely based on their lifestyle. The person described above might very well be enjoying this peaceful life of solitude. After all, loneliness is a subjective personal feeling, related to but not determined by the objective environment. One person living alone doesn't necessarily mean loneliness, and a group of people living together doesn't guarantee the absence of loneliness. In reality, there are of course many lonely individuals living alone, but their loneliness may not be a result of living alone. The real cause of loneliness is being socially isolated, not living alone. Many people mistakenly equate living alone with socially isolated. In the past, many individuals living alone were indeed socially isolated, forced into solitary living due to circumstances like widowhood, strained family relationships, or job requirements. However, a significant portion of the modern trend of living alone is actively chosen as an ideal lifestyle. With the rise of the single lifestyle culture, cities have become increasingly accommodating to individuals living alone. They have access to numerous high-quality leisure and living facilities, and can freely choose from various places such as cafes, gyms, and services like home cleaning, meal delivery, and online shopping for daily necessities. Living alone is no longer as inconvenient and awkward as it used to be. As the article, "The Rise of Solo Living" on the Solo Living website states, contrary to common impressions, modern individuals living alone seems to encourage more, not less, social interaction. On the whole, solos actually get out more visiting restaurants, attending classes and lectures. They are more inclined to socialize and spend time with family and friends than those who are coupled up. The image of people living alone has also changed significantly. They are no longer seen as destitute deviants or social outcasts, but are, to some extent, viewed as symbols of economic independence. After all, they can afford to have their own living space without sharing it with family or roommates. The ubiquity of social media has also made it easier for individuals living alone to maintain close connections with the world. They can interact with family and friends who are not nearby at any time, and even communicate with strangers from around the world. Playing video games together, sharing niche interests, participating in or organizing communities. Choices for social interaction are now more diverse than ever before. Regardless, solo living is becoming a new norm in our world. Indeed, some individuals living alone may experience loneliness, and there are many lonely people who live alone. But the causal relationship between the two may not be as straightforward as it appears. In his work, Going Solo: The Extraordinary Rise and Surprising Appeal of Living Alone, Eric Klinenberg provides a detailed analysis of this trend of living alone. Regarding why so many people now find living alone more attractive than other options, he believes, living alone helps us pursue sacred modern values, individual freedom, personal control, and self-realization, whose significance endures from adolescence to our final days. It liberates us from the constraints of a domestic partner's needs and demands, and permits us to focus on ourselves. Living alone helps us discover who we are, as well as what gives us meaning and purpose. Living alone, of course, has its ups and downs, like any other lifestyle. There's no need to see it as entirely good or bad. When it comes to the issue of loneliness, what we should strive to avoid is social isolation, not living alone. Chuck Nolan, the most famous FedEx executive in film history, felt lonely on the island, not because he lived alone, but because he was socially isolated. Use every available method to stay connected with the world, whether you live alone or not. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Until next time.